Project cost management. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about plan cost management. I'm recording a series of videos, 5 to 6 videos on project cost management, covering all the four process and project cost. And then I'll be covering the important concepts for PMP examination, important terminologies, the tools and techniques, and then we'll be talking about some earned value management calculations, and we'll go through some formulas in the next 4 to 5 videos on project cost management. All of these on YouTube for you to learn and pass the PMP examination in your first try. Okay, now in project cost management is based on the ECO exam content outline from PMI. It is the plan and manage cost in the domain 2, task number 5. Okay, now what are the terminologies we'll be covering in this series of videos on project cost management? We'll be covering all the processes, as well as we'll be covering the all the process on cost management. There are four processes, and now we'll be covering the project lifecycle costing, value analysis, return on investment, discounted cash flows, variable costs, fixed costs, indirect costs, analogous estimation, 3-point estimation, parametric estimation, the kinds of reserves, contingency management. So we'll cover all of these. These are important terminologies for a PMP examination. You need to know the subtle differences in these terminologies, which one will be used when. It can come in situational questions, right? The indexes like CPI, CV, all this info formally you have to remember. We'll cover all of these in this series of videos on cost management. Now, I want to give you a high level overview on the project cost management. So, costs are easily influenced, means it can be changed or increased or lowered during the initial phase of the project. When before the project is getting signed, it can easily influence people and get all the things that you want to do, get it done at the beginning. But once it is approved, it's very difficult to get more funding for the cost. Okay, I've observed this the last 8 years as a project manager in the industry for the last 18 years. I know how project costs work. So this is the best time to get the project influence. Okay, then it is very important for you to define the scope as early as possible so that you get to know what is the work needs to be done and get the right cost for it. Okay, it becomes easier for you to work on fixed price project if you can define the scope clearly when you start off with the project. Then the primary focus of cost will be on the resources, people resources, and then material resources. And then not only that, other resources or other things also will be considered, like your project lifecycle costing, the support cost. If planning is happening for a very long duration, what cost will be investing, right? So this is a high level overview for the project cost management. Day-to-day terms, I want to speak about this that are related to cost management. Remember these, you'll get an idea when you're working on projects, also help for your examination. Okay, so weekly burn rate is something that we use commonly for time and material projects. But let's say you've got say 10 resources on a project on a week, like how many of them these work for 8 hours a day and how many were not available, right? So that's the weekly burn rate we want to calculate, because we are this is a planned cost and then actual cost, right? This is a forecast which we have. We want to ensure that we're getting the entire money being used, right? We want to ensure that we don't waste any resources, we don't waste any money that's not being utilized, right? So burn rate will be calculated every week, usually on Friday, and then a report is sent. So that's a weekly burn rate. Revenue recognition. Revenue recognition is related to another term called project milestones, wherein you recognize the revenue once we reach a milestone. Okay, revenue recognition happens only when money comes into the system. They pay the money, a bill is there, invoice is sent, a receipt is come, acknowledgement is done, money is in your account. That's where the revenue recognition happens. Okay, project milestones are very important, because based on the milestones we get paid for most of the fixed price projects. Let's say I finish the discovery, I finish the design, development, and UAT and release. So like 5 milestones, talking about 5 times we're going to get project for the money for the from the customer. So we can recognize the value and the money earlier. We don't have to put the entire project. Let's say it's a 1-year-old project and you don't need to wait a whole year to get the money into the system. Okay, usually for time and material projects, this revenue recognition happens on monthly basis. Every month invoice is sent and then a receipt comes back. Okay, and then after the capacity is the number of people who are working on a project that will determine what is the cost that's getting actually burned. Usually in the execution process, when the project is on high of resources, the cost is very high. Okay, all these terms are related to your cost. Okay, shared resources, if there are like less people, we'll give say 50% of the cost for this project, 50% that person. So a person might work say for 20 hours on 2 different projects and he'll get some money. right? So I mean, say the organization makes money out of it. That's a shared resources. You can't bill him on one project for like 40 hours, another to 40 hours, and working like 50%. Okay, that's not possible. Shared resource means number of hours he works here, number of hours he works here, he gets billed similarly for those hours. Estimates, there are different kinds of estimates on projects like analogous estimate, parametric, 3 point, bottom estimate. So all of this will be using in your project cost management. Reserves, there are two types of reserves. We'll talk about them: contingency management reserves when it comes to the estimates. Okay, so those are the important terms that we use on the project day-to-day project management on cost. Now let's try to understand what's the project cost management. Project cost management includes the process involved in planning, estimating, budgeting, financing, funding, managing, controlling the cost. Okay, so the project can be completed within the approved budget. Okay, all of these are very important terms, right? Approved budget, funding, financing, budgeting, all these are important. Okay, so there are four processes from the PMBOK 6th edition for the PMP examination and also part of the ECO, right? So there's a plan cost management, estimate cost, determine budget, control cost. Okay, three of these are in the planning process group. One is in the control process group. So when is the plan cost management done? It is done during the planning process group. Why is it done? It defines how, what, and when of the cost. How will you estimate the cost? What are you estimating for? And when will you be using the cost or putting the money in the system, or when it's getting realized, right? Then after that, the output of that is cost management plan. Estimate cost is second process, planning process group. Here we work with experts to get the estimates. Okay, then we get the output is cost estimates or basis of estimates. Determine budget is the planning process group, part of planning process group, wherein we are kind of getting the approval from senior management. Okay, this is the money I need, and they might put some reserves and give you the final budget. So what do we get from this? Cost baseline, project funding requirements. Finally, control cost. Control cost is monitoring and processing group. It's done in the planning processing group. We talk about plan versus the actuals. We talk about corrective actions. We talk about variances. It's more only used to help us with the forecast and change request. So these are the four processes we have. Why are we doing it and when are we doing it, and what are the key outputs? Remember this. Okay, plan project cost. So how do you plan project cost? It involves the following questions. You have to answer the following questions like: how do I plan the cost? Who needs to be involved? How will I manage project cost for the baseline? How will I manage the variances? Then what are the input tools and techniques of plan cost management? So you don't have to memorize the input tools and techniques for all the 49 processes, but you need to know the tools and techniques. You need to know the difference between different tools and techniques. You need to know the difference between documents, what documents are used, how are they different from each other. You need to know what are the plans. You need to know the difference between plans and the documents. You don't need to know like, okay, all these 15 things are inputs or outputs. This will not be asked in the examination, but you need to know what document does what, when is it used, how it is going to solve the problem. Okay, which process comes first, which process comes second. These are all important for your PMP examination. So plan cost management inputs. You've got project management plan, schedule management plan, risk management plan. Project management plan will tell you about how you're going to plan the cost. Schedule management tells you about duration. If there's a longer project, longer duration, the cost might be higher. Risk management plan talks about the what is the risk level you're going to accept. Okay, based on that, the cost might be increased. The risk appetite is very high, right? You might put more cost, right? It's very low, you put less cost. So those things will be involved. Then project charter is important to give the cost because it tells you of the high level scope, high level milestones, high level durations, right? What is need to be developed. So that's important as an input for the plan cost management. Environment, EEF and OPA. So these environment, enterprise environmental factors and organizational processes. So these will also be used. Tools and techniques, we'll talk about the expert judgments, data analysis, meetings. We need experts to come and talk about the previous projects. You analyze some old data, and then you have meetings to come up with the best estimates. What kind of estimates are going to come out? Output is cost management plan. What is the part of the cost management plan? We'll look at this in detail in this slide. So cost management plan includes specification or estimates should be given. Is it a rough order management estimate, a definitive, or what is the level of estimate we're going to talk about here? You have to mention that. Levels of accuracy and precision needs to be estimated, right? Like what is the accuracy of this estimate? We have to talk about that because based on that, the cost might go high and low, and when later on when trying to recognize the cost, it should not be an issue. Approve estimating techniques. What techniques are going to use to give estimation? You have to mention that. Is it parametric estimation, 3-point estimation, or bottom estimation? You have to mention the cost management plan. Reporting format, what are different reporting formats will be used, who will be updated, and when. Rules for measuring the cost performance has to be told. Like for example, when is a project called under budget or over budget, right? When will you need the reserves? So all these have to be called out to measure the cost performance. That's the cost variance or CPI, cost performance index, has to be measured. Guidance if cost will include overhead costs and direct costs has also to be mentioned. How to establish the baselines, we have to mention that. Control thresholds, so what are the limits that you're going to accept on the cost, like when is the project going red or when I'm not getting benefit of the project, right? So these things have to be mentioned, the threshold limits. Only then the escalation happens. If something crosses threshold limits, you're going to escalate things. Change control procedures, who will approve, when will they approve, when will people need to be involved to be approved, when will the baseline get changed, what is the acceptable level of baseline that is not getting impacted, so when will more people to get this change. So change control procedures have to be mentioned. Information on control account, so which control account got what is the level of scope, so based on that these cost will be evaluated, right? If there's more work on the control account, then more cost. Funding decisions, when will the funding be released into the project, how often will we get the funds, or who's going to do that. Methods of documenting the cost has to be mentioned. Roles and responsibilities of various cost activities have to be mentioned. Guidelines for dealing with variances has to be mentioned. As I told you, what corrective action will take, when will change control process will be initiated, change request will be initiated. These have to be mentioned. So these are part of the cost management plan. Okay, remember these things. Okay, so few more important terms for a PMP examination. Project life cycle costing is the overall cost of the project throughout the life cycle of the product. Okay, so that's not just the cost of the project, but also the product. It includes the maintenance cost, it includes support costs, all those things. Value analysis is like figuring out a less costly way of doing the same work. Okay, like for example, will you do it in-house or you do a vendor? So giving the vendor, like who's the best vendor, you can get best value for the less amount of money. So it's like less costly way of doing something is called value analysis. Return on investment is like if you put 100 rupees, what is the return going to get? You're going to get like 120, 125. So projects with higher return of investment will be chosen over a project with lower return on investment. Important for a PMP examination. Discounted cash flows is like the money you'll be receiving in future as discounted to its current value. Okay, that's a discounted cash flows. So that's about the project cost management. We'll talk about estimate project cost in the next video. Watch this video a couple of times. Put on your questions in the comments. I'll try to answer those. Please do like, share, and subscribe. I wish you all the best for PMP examination. Bye bye.